Hey, we're live. We're live on YouTube. Welcome,
We're
YouTube people.
live.
We're
Oh,
live from the politics server. If any of you YouTube folks wanna call in, you can do that. That's the thing. You gotta click on the link though. You gotta click on the
hmm
link.
hmm
Come on in.
sketchy
Um,
links for the win.
Sketchy links. I don't know. Is it that sketchy? It's a Discord link. All right, we got a few
Just give
people
us
in
your
here.
credit card information and you can call in too.
It only costs $9.99
Yeah.
plus tax. You always gotta tax it.
Yeah, you don't want Uncle Sam asking questions.
But
So yeah, go
yep,
for it, Pierce.
what we're doing here is called Street Epistemology, and almost everybody who's in here, I know knows what Street Epistemology is. Hopefully, everybody who's watching on YouTube, hopefully you guys do too. But for those of you who might not, it's a conversational technique where you talk to your conversation partner collaboratively, meaning together, not against. We don't debate here. Debate is pretty low on the things that we like to do. Maybe David does, but I don't like doing that. We're
I
not
like it for
debating
a
here.
different time. Yeah.
Okay, fair
At this
enough.
point, I'm trying to do collaborative stuff. And then later, it's like boxing. It's like football. It's like you agree to hit each other. You agree that it's okay to be absolutely merciless in some ways. Like I think there's a place for that. But I think if we're trying to figure out what's important to people, let's try to do it together. Let's find a collaborative way to do it.
I like it. And yeah, so what we're trying to do is trying to be collaborative. We're going to try to explore what you believe and more importantly, how you came to your conclusion and kind of go from there. So,
Mm,
with that being said, anybody who wants to come up on the stage, you got to raise your hand. That's how we know you want to come up on stage. And
or
then
go to the
we have a
bathroom.
little conversation. Pretty much how it goes. All right, we got Chase. We'll bring Chase up real quick.
What's up, Chase?
Yo, what's happening, everybody? How we do? How we do?
Doing pretty
Chilling.
good.
It's a long week over here.
All right. Well, I can talk about a claim. I guess I can make a claim for you.
Yeah. What's important to you these days, Chase?
Yeah. So I would say a plant-based diet is better for the environment.
Hmm.
Significantly. Let's do that. Plant-based diet is significantly better for the environment.
And why is that important to you?
Because I'm an activist for human rights and animal rights, and the environment is the home that we live on. And we're in a
Hmm.
climate crisis.
If there wasn't a climate crisis and it didn't affect things the way it did, would it still be important?
Well, I mean, that's the main reason. That's maybe the only reason that I care about the environment, aside from the like aesthetic look of it and all, But like, uh, yeah, if we weren't in a climate crisis, it would still be a problem though, because if we weren't already in a crisis, we'd be creating a crisis with our behavior, with animal agriculture.
Hmm.
And even if we didn't create a crisis, it's still needless and has negative effects on um, wildlife, you know, biodiversity.
Hmm.
Are those things something we should hold great importance for?
Yeah, I think that those ecosystems, the animals in those ecosystems want to live, and they maintain a balance for again the planet that we're on. That if the bees die, we die.
Hmm.
Hmm. Okay. Okay. Is that the only reason that that's important, or are there other reasons that biodiversity is important?
I mean, those two things I think are the things, like the animals who live, those individuals who live in those environments, um, and like their well-being, and the impact that their well-being or lack thereof has on human
Okay.
through economic or through ecological collapse.
I hear you. So it's like the actual being itself has this value, and the whole thing as a whole it might collapse. So kind of two separate kind of things.
Yeah, pretty much. And
Okay.
I can like give a quick example, like I'll post in the side chat here, that this is from the University of Michigan. The Vegan Beyond Burger creates 90% less greenhouse gas emissions, uses 99% less water, 93% less land, and requires 46% less energy than a beef burger. Those are pretty big numbers.
Hmm.
And that's just
Some
one
interesting
study I
stuff
have
there.
out of like 150.
Hmm. Okay.
I think I may have asked you this a time or two when we talked in the past. But what do you think the average person feels about these kind of issues?
It seems like most people that I talk to about the environment aspect of a plant-based diet, um, they are, I'd say, less defensive than when I talk about animal rights. When I'm talking about the environment, most people are actually pro-environment, um, and they may not be open-minded to going fully plant-based for the environment, but they at least see the value in decreasing their consumption of animal products for the environment once they've been educated, once they've seen the information.
Hmm.
Same with health. Except I think, yeah, some people are decreasing that or eliminating their consumption of animal products for their health or for the environment, or people are going vegan for the animals. I think that um, it's harder to cheat on your diet when it's an ethical right, like when it's an ethical, philosophical, moral against animal cruelty. It's harder for like vegans don't usually cheat on their diet.
Hmm.
But plant-based people who are on a plant-based diet, plant-based eaters, we could call them, who are doing it for their health or for the environment, it's easier to cheat because if you have a steak once a month, it's not really killing the environment. It's better that you don't, but at least you're not eating a steak every day, kind of thing. So and same with health. You could eat a steak a week or a steak a month and probably not see serious negative health outcomes as opposed to eating meat every day.
Hmm. You've been, and we've had a few conversations you on our show, and we've obviously talked uh, for a long time now on different servers and stuff like that. Uh, I'm just going to ask you like a kind of a side question here. I mean, why do you think? I mean, what do you think has been the most convincing to people who disagree with you? That I mean, what have you seen move people a percentage or two?
About the environment or about like the animal rights or the health, like just in general, like when I'm trying to get somebody to adopt a vegan diet, like what is most effective usually? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, in your opinion. Yeah, just your opinion.
Yeah, I mean, most of my time is spent talking about animal rights, because it's so under talked about, and people need to like start thinking about that stuff and seeing the footage of slaughterhouses and whatnot. But um, uh, like I said, a lot of people get defensive and angry, unjustifiably, just like I used to make fun of vegans, but now look at me, so people can change. So I have a little bit of hope, but a lot of times people get super irrational and defensive and angry when talking about animal rights. And so, but I do it anyway. That's my main thing. And sometimes I throw in the bonus aspects of it's better for the environment, it's better for your health, that kind of thing. I usually don't lead with those, but I am today, as far as the environment is concerned. And some people are, more receptive to to health and environment arguments, but I don't think that has as much. It doesn't inspire as much conviction in them as does an awakening, a moral awakening to animal rights.
Hmm.
I think I could see that being the case. I could see that could be more like motivating, right? And I think I know why, but I'm curious as to why you think that's the case.
Because I think it doesn't ask as much, it doesn't demand as much. Like being plant-based or plant-based-ish, where you're still allowed to cheat on your diet because it's not that big of a deal. Like that is easier to accept, and for your health, it's you and your body, so you can regulate it to whatever degree you want, like but when it comes to the moral, claims about what we're doing to animals and how they did nothing wrong, and we have no right to abuse the power we hold over these weaker beings just because they're weaker than us. Like, we're exploiting them, we're abusing them. It's slavery, totally unjustified, and should be illegal as soon as possible. Like, it's totally unacceptable, and I regret having ever participated. So it's very serious. It's very serious, and we can talk about that another day, though. I want to talk about the environment, damn it.
Do you feel as though if people were to be more, and if they would accept the responsibility for the environment, they'd be more likely to accept responsibility for more of an ethical treatment of animals?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like some people will go plant-based or start eating more plant-based for environmental reasons, and as they're doing so, or for health reasons, and as they're doing so, they'll doing research about what to eat, where to eat, how bad it is for the environment, learn the specifics about that stuff. They might stumble across slaughterhouse videos and become a vegan for the animal. So that's nice when that happens. I don't know if that was answering your question.
Yeah, I think it does. Yeah. Chase, we've talked so many times. I'm actually struggling to ask questions that I don't know the answer to, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I hear you.
Um,
Well, you can always do the standard questions of like what's the best argument against my position. I always like that question.
Well, what's the best argument against your position?
I don't want to force
random,
you to ask a question.
I mean, I'm just throwing that out there. That's just a random question.
Random, yeah. Let's see. Of the environment, let's see. Well, maybe somebody could say something like, well, I'm already living child free, because having kids is really bad for the environment. So having fewer children is like the best thing we can do for the environment. That doesn't mean like we need to have no kids, but having one fewer child is the best thing you can do for the environment. I think the next thing is living car free and living and not flying airplanes. Probably, yeah, it depends on how often you fly airplanes, how often you drive, but those two. And then the fourth one is eat a plant-based diet. So let's see. So get me back on track. I got lost. What was your question? Or so if somebody were to say, I'm already living child free and I already don't fly anywhere and I already bicycle wherever I go, or I work from home, so I'm not driving much. So don't expect me to do more than anything else more for the environment when I'm already doing my part. And it's like, well, yeah, and so my response to that, I think, would be there's still more that you could do. And all that, and adopting a plant-based diet is not a hard thing to do, or eating eating less of these products, less animal products, is not a hard thing to do, and it helps immensely. And you have a voice. So I'm not just talking about what people eat, but also what they say to others, because we all have some degree of a platform with social media and with our friend groups and families that we can pass along these scientific studies and show them, hey, look at how bad animal agriculture is for the environment.
I'll tell you, one of the things you mentioned there is really hits me sometimes. It's like the most people are just trying to live their life. They're just trying to get through their day. They're trying to earn their money. They're trying to pay for their things, and people feel struggling to do what they're doing. And I think you and I were discussing that video with Red Pill Pete, who was talking about how there's a certain, I mean, that you can do it affordably, but I think affordability is one thing, but to do something that takes extra care and time and energy, I think it's hard on a lot of people. I think it's there's a lot of causes in the world, and to pick something and commit to it is very difficult for people, because there's a lot of things you can commit to. Like you said, you could commit to focusing on emissions. You can focus on violence. You can focus on sustainable agriculture. There's a million ways you could focus. And so why do you choose veganism as the one that you focus on?
Yeah, because it covers so many areas. Like, for one, like first and foremost, the victim, like, they're being slaughtered en masse and they did nothing wrong. Innocent, childlike beings. According to the United Nations, we raise, feed, and kill 70 billion land animals. 70 billion. That's 10 times the human population, right? So we got to feed those animals. And so, the fact that it's so underrepresented, under talked about, and everybody's contributing to this injustice and this waste of resources and this unhealthy diet, right? And so, which is, causing harm to ourselves and our children and our communities, because we're not raising a red flag when people are eating dangerous foods, and then they get higher rates of cancer and heart disease and type 2 diabetes, which then causes financial constraints on our hospital care system and everything, right? And so I understand that people are preoccupied and stuff, but I don't think that's an excuse for causing massive unnecessary suffering and harming our own home. And if we care about our families, then we should make sure that we protect the home they live in, this planet, and the bodies that they have, and not feed them these, dangerous foods, or at least let them know that they're eating dangerous foods and that they have another option, like rice, pasta, fruits, vegetables, seeds, nuts, beans, bread. And the more we
there's a lot of
this
things
stuff, the more. Yeah, go ahead.
One of the things that I think I tell you often is I do appreciate how passionate you are about this stuff and how much you care about living beings' lives and the people and other creatures. And I mean, it's a huge endeavor to understand all that. And I hope that through these conversations, other people can hear your case, and I hope that I hope that the things you care about hopefully can be translated to more people. I'm still trying to understand a number of them, but Chase, I do appreciate you. I'm gonna jump up to the next caller at this point. But I hope that you feel as though we were able to dive into your belief a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. I appreciate it. The last thing I'll just say is that there's a misconception that a vegan diet is more expensive, and it's just not true. Like, there are some vegan foods, like some of the vegan burgers or vegan milks and vegan cheeses, that are a little bit more expensive right now, but that'll change with supply and demand. But again, those vegan staples like rice and pasta and beans and bread and all that stuff is the cheapest stuff at the grocery store, and you can find it at the dollar menu on some restaurants, you know. But accessibility is a problem, and so I think we all need to work together to make these healthier foods more accessible and affordable to everybody. And there you and I would just encourage people to watch a movie on Netflix called Cowspiracy. It's about the environmental impact of a plant-based diet. Called Cowspiracy on Netflix.
Right on. Appreciate you, Chase.
Right on. We will move on to the next call. Yeah, I appreciate your passion. Now, I just want to kind of reset the room. So what we're doing here is called Street Epistemology. It's a non-confrontational, conversational method where just chat to you about what you believe, and more importantly, how you got there, why you think it's important. And with that being said, there's been a caller who's been itching to get on stage, so I'm going to invite them up. Hey there, how's it going?
Semantics.
Hey, what's up? Yeah, I'm aware of Street Epistemology.
Cool.
I just came in to see what's going on. I don't really know what, like, am I supposed to answer the question? What do you wish others believed also, or you just want to talk about?
Is that something important to you?
Well, I think there was initially I wanted to make a comment, but I don't want to be rude. I think some of the techniques are very transparent, especially if you're just generally socially intelligent, but especially if you've delved into street epistemology, it comes across as very like, how does that make you feel? You know, like it's very, like it might seem like you're doing some very kind of, you know, subtle social engineering nudging of people, but if you're sort of aware, it becomes very transparent and almost slimy. You understand? Just understand what I'm trying to say?
I mean, I can imagine it can very much come across that
Yeah.
way. It's
Can you really imagine that? Can you imagine that? Can you really empathize with me and like really use the word imagine so I really feel like you're listening to me? It's very obvious. Yeah.
Sure. Have you ever watched anything from Pierce or myself?
Yeah.
Yeah. Have we seen Slimy?
Yeah.
Okay. That's fair. That's feedback. Tell us why. If you like.
It's basically what I'm saying. Like that, I think there's a fine line between being accommodating and it then becoming really, really obvious that you're just being basically ingratiating to kind of lull the other person into some kind of like pseudo constructive, like kumbaya conversation. And to me, it becomes extremely obvious when people are doing that. You understand what I'm trying to say?
When you say like a kumbaya conversation, is it like
Is it like when you mirror back like the things that I've said and you'll sort of feign this kind of like interest in what I've said in order to like provoke me to say something else, something like that maybe?
Is it slimy because of like the underlying reason of why we're doing that? Or is it just the act of it alone?
I don't think it's genuine.
Oh, okay. So you think like we're not being genuine with that. Instead of trying to understand, we're doing something else?
I think, like I said before, it's not only if you've looked into street epistemology, but I think it's if you're just generally socially intelligent, you can see when someone is in a very clunky way trying to ingratiate themselves to someone. Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Maybe I could put it like this. It's a conversation technique. I like street epistemology because it allows me to do fun things like go out and do street interviews with a cardboard cutout.
Oh,
and,
I can imagine. I can imagine that's really very.
Please let me finish.
Hey,
please let me finish, sir.
I did let you finish one thing.
So what I'm saying is it's a verbal agreement. It's like a game. It's an interview. It's like debate. In debate, you don't talk to people like you do debates in real life. You don't run over people. You don't get the zingers and stuff like that in regular day conversations. And you don't
hate
do that
debate.
in like a call-in show or a street interview type thing. I mean, it's a game that we
I hate
say, hey,
debate.
let's try to understand what you're saying. Like that's make it a game so we can both understand what the other person's saying. That's it. It's a technique. It's a way to structure a conversation. If people can use that ingenuously, people can use that genuinely. It's all about how the person does, what the person does. People can use debate ingenuously. People can just try to trick people. They can try to trap people with verbal arguments. It's all about the individual interaction with the person. I think to try to say that just because somebody is making a framing for a conversation, I mean, everything's different kind of framings of conversation. The way that you greet a person on the street versus the way that you talk to someone in your office, they're framings of the conversation. It's all about the agreement. If somebody is saying, I don't like the way you're talking to me, you adjust. That's it.
Yeah. I imagine you guys are attentive to premises, right?
It depends on what you mean. I don't know what you mean by that.
Yeah. Okay. You never come across the word premise before?
No, I mean, I know what
We know what it
premise is. I just
means.
mean what you mean by
Okay.
attentive to premise.
Okay. Yeah, that's cute. No, I'm just
It's all
wondering.
semantics.
I don't know. I'm pretty
Yeah.
cute,
What's up?
right?
Yeah. What's up? Did you want to say something?
No, I'm
No,
saying
I-
it's all semantics. It's just different ways we phrase words to mean.
Oh,
It's
sorry, I
all
thought
about
you
the
were
meaning
trying-
of the word.
Sorry, I thought you were saying semantics to try and get my attention. My bad.
I don't understand.
Yeah. Yeah. All I'm trying to say is, it's like, you ever done like a questionnaire or something that's like a psychometric questionnaire, and it's like, do you like going to parties? And then it turns out that maybe means you're extroverted. Like, a lot of street epistemology guys are kind of like that to me. It's like, I see what you're doing, and it's like, if you could actually shoot from the hip and say, hey, this is what I'm interested in, and get to it. But it's this kind of like, yeah, this kind of ponderous, like, I'm gonna like look off into the distance and like sort of feign that I'm really thinking like quite hard about what you're saying, rather than actually just saying, hey, this is what I think.
True.
I see.
That can happen.
Yeah.
I like
interesting.
to stare in the distance because I like to think about what people say, and I like to try to make a response after, chewing on what they say for a second. And everyday conversations, I just reply with what I think most of the time. But again, it's all about the framing.
Yeah, I can imagine why you would think that.
Oh, see, look, you get it.
Yeah.
I know.
Maybe I'm actually quite well versed in it. Maybe that's why when I see it being employed in like a clunky manner, it sort of comes across as a bit what's the word I'm looking for? Gimmicky.
Yeah, it can be. And I'm gimmicky as can be. I walk around with a cardboard cutout. A guy who was
really
born
good at
yesterday. I do. I say this is 2-day David. He was born yesterday. He's trying to understand things. What's something that you believe that you wish others believe? And then we can explain to a guy who was born yesterday. It's a gimmick. It is. It's a way that I can have conversations about things that are important to people that I can't have just by going on the street and say, hey, what's your opinion on this? Or what do you feel about this? Is caring about people important to you? You do that to the street. I mean, people are going to give the canned answers and stuff like that. But this is a way.
You don't have to be confrontational. Look, the opposite of being like transparently ingratiating to somebody who's socially intelligent is not being confrontational. There's a middle ground where you have enough facility as a conversationalist to actually talk to someone directly, and you don't have to do this like faux like chin stroking where you're like, yes, like I really understand why you might feel that way, because to someone who's socially intelligent, it comes across
Tell
as
me
very
about your mother.
cringe.
I like touching the beard, though.
It does feel good.
Yeah, it does feel
You
good.
know
That's
who's good at
mostly why I
it?
do it. So you're like
our Lord and Savior, what's his name? Bogosian. He's good at it, right? Because he has a poker face. Most people don't have a poker face.
Yeah. Send me some links on that. I'll check it out.
I
Who's
thought you would be
who's
friends with
Bogosian?
I thought
It was a
you
joke.
guys
It was a
were.
joke. It was a joke. I'm being sarcastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Am
I
I
don't
allowed to?
particularly care for him.
Am I allowed to
Yeah.
joke around as well?
Yeah,
Sure.
for sure.
Okay.
This is yeah.
Okay, just checking.
We can joke.
Just checking. Okay, cool.
Okay, so
What is something that I wish others believed also?
yeah,
That the concept of race is inherently racist.
can you expand on that? What you mean more?
Yeah.
What do you mean by race? That's what I meant.
Oh, that's a great question. You want an operational definition of race? Oh, interesting. I suppose what I'd say is I think putting people into color boxes is kind of tantamount to being reductive, i.e., racist. So I basically see the concept of race and racism as two sides of the same coin, basically. You understand what I'm trying to say?
I'm completely lost. I don't.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're getting at.
I'm saying.
My apologies.
Okay. If let's say one way you can discriminate against people is by being reductive in the way that you categorize them. Does that make sense?
Okay. I'm picking up what you're putting
Okay.
down.
Okay. So if race is an inherently reductive concept, then race is kind of inherently reductive and therefore basically like what racism is, right?
Okay. So I think what you're
Yeah.
is what you're saying, like
Yeah. Ask me.
Place-
Mirror me.
placing people into categories based on their characteristics like skin color or other characteristics like that would be racist because you're dividing people based on their race. That kind of what you're saying?
Sort of.
Okay.
I can see why you would say it that way. It's about arguing for what you always have to argue for the utility of a particular concept based on your other values, right? Like, why am I using this taxonomy? Why am I using this concept? So the thing for me is what's the cost benefit analysis of the concept of race, right? If by race we're putting people into these color categories of the rainbow, what is that really doing for us? Okay, we can look back and say people were stupid in the past and use these like reductive concepts to put people into like one of what, 7, 8, 9, maybe 10 at a push, like categories. If you think there's only 10 types of people in the world, you might need to update your taxonomy, is what I'm saying. Right?
I'm going to break form a little bit and just ask you this question.
Yeah.
If
Am I
we
racist?
no, if we eliminated race, the concept of race today, like when should we eliminate the concept of race? Because like
Good question.
like you said in the past, there's people who've used race as motivators.
I understand.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think we need to look both ways, right? So I understand when people say, look, if you just try to be colorblind, then you're going to ignore the legacies of disenfranchisement and blah, 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 right? You're not going to, understand the problems that we're living with today as a result of the mistakes of the past. I get that point, right? But I think we need to, like I say, look both ways and be critical of the concept at the same time as acknowledging the legacies, right? But if we uncritically just use the tools of the linguistic tools of the past, we're just going to perpetuate the same simplistic taxonomy, and we're going to be talking about white people and green people and purple people, and we're never going to get outside that box. Right? So I understand the argument about don't ignore the historical injustices, blah blah blah.
Yeah. I hear what you're
and
saying.
it's
I'm just
difficult
trying
to
to
do.
imagine what like a future world would look like.
A future world would be, hi, my name's John, and you say, hi, John, how are you doing? And John would say, hey, I really like basketball and fried chicken and guitar and Taylor Swift. And you'd be like, that's great, John.
Yeah. I mean, that sounds great to me.
Yeah.
How is that
Go ahead.
different than the current world we live in? Does that not occur?
Well, because someone might be like, well, I'm black, right? And on the basis of that identification with this abstraction, it might influence their behavior in ways that are inherently reductive and make you treat people in certain ways that you wouldn't otherwise treat them. So there are definitely externalities there. I mean, look at the past. The only thing that enabled racism of the past is race. Without race, you can't have racism.
Right. I guess I'm trying to imagine, like, so we got point A, which is where we're at. And then there's point C, which is a world which we just treat people based on.
I don't know
what they
about
do.
that today, David. I'm not sure if I'm liking this nudging here.
Well, hear me out. What's point B? At what point do we stop talking about the past, and what point at what point is it
We have to
like
do
an
both.
equal playing field?
We have to do both.
Yeah,
we have to
we do
spin
both.
ways.
Like, but
Yeah.
at one point, I mean, you go from, you got the color. God, I'm trying to think of an analogy. Apparently, I don't remember how to mix colors.
How do we know when we get there? When we're there?
Yeah, like it, because there's things to account for.
Yes.
We don't know the exact answer for that for everybody, but like,
I think
at
we
what
have
point will we know
conversations
that
like
we're
this.
25% there, we're
I don't know.
10% there? What would be the last thing to go?
I don't know. I don't have the absolute answer on there. I'm not that religious today, David. But I think we just have conversations like this where we try to reframe the concept in the hope that it will help. Because I don't say this just to be antagonistic or difficult or like tear down people's identities or whatever. I say it because I think that it's like kind of a silly concept. It's done a lot of damage, and if we continue to perpetuate it, we're just going to have similar issues, right?
I mean, I hear you. I mean, it's like you roll out a new software, but you don't have enough software for everybody. You got other people who will get updated later. You still got to deal with the people on the old software.
Mhm. By the way, it's a very similar issue, and this is to the gender thing, right? I think gender is inherently sexist in the sense that, like, if by gender we mean the stereotypes that we associate with the sexes, a lot of people that talk about gender say, "Oh, I'm progressive" and whatever, right? I think the maximally progressive position would not be, hey, like, if you're a male who wants to act like a female, you can be like an honorary female, and we call that like a woman or like a trans woman or something like that. Like, I think the maximally progressive position would be, if John the male wants to wear pink shoes and a dress, that's great. John the male can just wear pink shoes and a dress, and that's John the male wearing pink shoes and a dress, right? Like, the progressive answer is to become more accepting of people of a given sex doing whatever they want to do, rather than reinforcing the stereotypes, which is what gender is, right? A reinforcement of stereotypes. And then saying you can like switch categories, because you're just, even when you say people can switch categories, you're reinforcing the very categories that you think are reductive. Does that make sense?
I hear what you're saying.
Yeah. Do you really?
Do you think there are any situations at which a person may feel they belong in a different category and it's not influenced by stereotypes?
Could you give me an example of what you mean today, David?
It would be almost like a spiritual thing. It's just a feeling that they just feel that they're supposed to have a different body, or they feel as
That's
though they
everyone.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, like I'm 6'2" and I want to be 6'3". I'm dissatisfied. Like, some people want to feel like, maybe they want to lose some weight. Am I like trans skinny because I want to lose some weight?
Maybe.
It's like if the principle here is dissatisfaction with your body, that's everyone at some point,
Yeah, I think
right?
that's what dysphoria means.
Well, I don't know. Regardless of whether we're using clinical terminology or not, I'm saying like,
Mhm.
if like if it's just a case of wanting to be something or wanting to change your body in some way, that's
Yeah.
everyone,
Um,
right? Like if I want my nose to be smaller, am I like, I don't know, am I now a new category of person? Like I identify as having a smaller nose? Like everybody's dissatisfied with their body at some point. So what's the principle here?
mm.
Am I just a horrible bigot or am I making sense?
I think
Sorry,
I
that's a false
hear.
dichotomy. There's an
Yeah,
option three,
false.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
you get it.
But if I had to get closer, if I was closer to making sense or being a horrible bigot, like which way would you lean?
There's many things in there that I personally agree with. I'm a bit of a gender abolitionist personally. Just
Okay. And what's your operational definition of gender yourself?
gender is the social aspect uh, of that we associate with male and female that they develop over time through typical either uh, habits or typical behavior or characteristics and or marketing segmentation.
Okay. So, and why is it that you wish to abolish that?
Uh, honestly, because I have a daughter, and I watch many people tell my daughter that she can't do things or be, be more careful with her, or like, you know, wow, she's doing that and she's a girl, and it's like, man, I want my daughter to be able to do anything she wants. Um,
Right. Right. This is what I find so weird. Like I'm conscious that I've taken up a lot of your time, but just to finish off, like the sorry, I hate to run game on you guys when you're trying to run game on other people, but yeah, the it's weird. Like the people that talk about progressive stuff seem to want to reinforce the very thing that is not the maximally progressive position, right? It's like reinforce this kind of gender idea so you can transition to the caricature of the opposite sex rather than just saying, like I said before, a, a person of a given sex can engage in whatever behavior they want, and we're kind of done here, right? We don't
I
need any
think
gendering and transing and like cognitive acrobatics to get there. Just live your life.
I think I hear you. I think I hear what you're saying,
Yeah.
and oh yeah, I'm wondering of these people who are advocating for the things that you're saying. What do you
Yeah.
think? Would they like agree with you? Would they say like, yeah, he's representing what I think correctly, or would they say what they believe differently?
Am I like straw manning them like a terrible person? Is that what you're asking me?
Kind of. I'm asking
Okay.
if if they think you would be representing them accurately. So kind of in a way, if you want to phrase it
Well,
in that manner.
well, the thing is, I'd have to ask the specific person and run some street epistemology game on them, right, to really get that. Um, right, Pierce?
You could.
Yeah,
That would be one way to figure that out. That'd be
yeah,
a good strategy. Yeah.
yeah. So I think maybe maybe this is my initial issue, right? Is that I feel that a lot of the street epistemology stuff, although I'm aware of it, it involves a lot of fence sitting, right? And you could actually
Mm.
employ a lot of those skills to actually get to something and interrogate a position rather than just tickling someone's balls and just like humoring them and right like running circles around them. You could actually interrogate it and show some of the flaws and inconsistencies and maybe further the thing rather than just you know, obviously I'm not saying tear people down, but a lot of it is just kind of this like spiraling. Oh yeah, you know, and you have a great day, and you realize what you've done, but they don't necessarily realize what you've done.
Does it depend on what your goal of the conversation is?
No, it doesn't, Pierce.
Why not?
I don't know, because I felt like you wanted a yes, so I gave you a no.
Okay.
Yeah, do you see what I mean? This is what I mean about these kinds of questions, is that if you know what to look for, they become like so transparent that it's just like, okay, Pierce is trying to lead me down this garden path, and I'd rather get the real Pierce rather than Pierce running game. Do you understand?
So you want me to? I can't say it. I can't say it. I can't say it.
Yeah, I think you should say it.
Yeah, might as well at this point.
Should I? I mean, I can't
Should've
call him a
called for
fucking
something.
idiot, can I?
Sure, if you want to.
Yeah, you can
It's
call
our show.
me. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, like if I were to. So I asked why, if the goal would was like important. I don't remember what I asked. Something about the goal. Does the goal of the conversation matter? And so what I was trying to ask was, I was trying to figure out what you think my goal is. So if I were
I
to
don't know.
kind of have the
Only you
conversation, what?
Only you know.
Yeah. So if I were to have the conversation, I think the way you would like me to, I would state my goal.
No.
No?
Only
Okay.
I know. In the same, by the very same token, only I know. This is the point.
You know what?
I don't really what my
You know
what
my goal?
motivation is. No. Only I know my motivation, and only you know
Okay.
your motivation. Right? Is that fair?
So if
'Cause
I
I
tell
can't
you,
read
then you
your
know
mind.
mine.
No, you could be lying.
Oh. So then
See,
why do we even
so-
talk? Should we just not talk?
Well,
We should just not
well,
talk
well,
to anybody ever.
well,
They could be lying.
no.
They could be
Hey, Pierce,
lying.
you're straw manning me. Yeah. So to answer your first question, given that people can be sincerely wrong, right, and people can insincerely say something that's true, I don't focus on motivations whatsoever, right? Because if you say to someone really sincerely from the bottom of your heart that 2 + 2 = 5, does their sincerity matter?
Yes.
Like mathematically?
It might give you an idea of why they chose 5 over 4, and then you can get to the fact of what's leading them to do that. I mean, the goal is to understand motivation and reasoning behind how we get from point A to point B, because everybody kind of does it a little different. There's a reason that we have a million different talking head debate shows and that nobody moves their position. Like there's a reason that we get heated at Thanksgiving holiday. I mean, it's
I
because
understand. Maybe I wasn't clear. Okay, what I'm saying is their sincerity has no bearing on whether what they're saying actually adds up or not.
I'm not. There's plenty of people out there who talk about how whether stuff adds up or not. What I want to know is the math before you get to the final thing, because I think that if we get the smaller math in, if we get how we got the first 2 and how we got the second 2, then the 4 will be self-explanatory.
I understand, but I think there's a difference here between how and why, right? In the sense of motivation. So, how is like your method? How did you get there, right? What's your working out? I'm talking about the motivation, right? Like if I say I really, 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 really want this to be true, okay, but did what you just say actually make any sense or not? You see what I mean? What I'm trying to point out
Yeah,
is,
but I'm more interested in the why you want it to be true, not necessarily whether the thing's true or not. That's what I'm interested in. Because there's a million different. You could go read a million articles. You could go watch a
You're
million
trying
debates.
to get into people's hearts. You're like,
Yeah,
what is
I
this
want to get in
person's,
people's
like,
hearts. I want to get in
base
people's heads. I
value?
want to know why people choose what they do. I want to understand the world more. I want to understand the people
I
around me.
see.
I want to understand.
So it's not so much about epistemology; it's more about psychology.
Ultimately, the epistemology is a tool for me to understand psychology better.
Yeah. No, I understand. I understand what you're saying. The only point that I was trying to make was that if, given that people can be sincerely wrong, if I focus on what I think their motivation is, or if they're trolling, or if they're trying to be difficult, or if they're obtuse, or if they think this, or if they think that, it still has no bearing on whether what they're actually saying makes sense or not. So if I just try to evaluate what's actually being said without speculating, without trying to do this mind reading thing, I
Well, that's why we
actually
got to ask a
evaluate.
million questions, because we can't mind read. We can't know their true answer. So we got to keep asking questions. We
Right.
spend a lot more time active listening and doing than typical people. We give people platforms to expand their ideas, and we talk about it with people, which is different than a debate. A debate is you hear one
I
little
hate
thing
debate.
and you jump on the person, like I'm jumping on
Yeah,
you
I
right
hate
now.
debate. No. Well, look, I'll explain something to you. Maybe you'll agree with this. The word, obviously, we can define words in different ways, but the, the, the word debate to me suggests that you have this like fixed position and you'll just doggedly like argue for that position. I'm not really interested in that, because then you become rigid, and you don't listen to what somebody's actually saying, right? I'd much rather have a discussion, and if I speak to someone for 3 hours and then they make a really good point, I'll happily change my mind, because I'm interested in like what makes sense to me and what adds up, rather than some sort of performative winning. And there seems to be a lot of performative kind of winning, zero sum mentality on Discord.
Oh, agreed.
On
Absolutely.
Discord, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
okay, before I go, you wanted to call me an idiot, Pierce? Is that what's...
No, I apologize for that.
No. Never apologize for saying what you really think, in my view.
No, I don't really think that though. That was more of me. I mean, it was a joke, but like that was me. That was me expressing frustration, and
Okay.
I really want to conduct myself in a way that doesn't get emotional like that. So that was a disappointment to myself.
Was the
So
source of your frustration that I was seemingly not getting a particular point? Because I'd love to learn something if I could.
I think the frustration was I was trying to understand kind of where you were coming from. I wanted
On
to
which point?
really. I think it was the. I don't know. This was like 5 minutes ago, and I got like a goldfish brain here.
Was it when I was saying... I think I said something along the lines of, the maximally progressive position would be just to accept people of a given sex, and
It
then
was way
you asked
before
me.
that.
I think. It was before
Yeah,
that.
it was. What was it? I don't really remember.
I think you
Semantics.
asked me about... Yes, sir.
It feels like I could talk to you for a minute. Like you bring up interesting things that I feel like are important to talk about. But we've had a few people waiting in line here. Can you
Yeah,
go
sure.
back in the queue and come back at the end if you want to come back on?
I'm sure I could do that. Yeah.
All right. I'm gonna
Look, I
have
just
to
want to...
hit the people here.
Yeah, no. I just just to wrap this up, I just want to say I really, really like your passion today, David, and you too, Pierce. It's really, really great to have conversations like this with people who are obviously really interested in like getting to something and not engaging in a kind of performative one-upmanship. That's it's really refreshing, guys.
Right
Mind
on.
if I ask you one last thing before you go back down to the audience?
Well, you just did.
True. Well, I'll ask one more. So, you kind of made like an observation that Today David, myself, that we kind of have this slimy way of doing street epistemology, or street epistemology is slimy in general.
That was at the very beginning, right? I mean,
Yeah.
like
Have you changed
the
your mind
point
on
I
that?
was making, the point that let me preface my answer, right? When
Okay.
I said that at the beginning, I'm talking more about it in general, because I
Okay.
was into
That's
street
fine.
epistemology. Like I when I came across street epistemology, like, a few years back or whatever, right? I took to it pretty naturally because I felt like it was something that I was already doing in a sense, and it was just kind of maybe you guys felt that way too. It was kind of formalizing some of the things that I felt that I was doing with people naturally anyway, right? But then when I saw
I
other
think
people doing it on videos, I could see how clunky it was. It was like step one, do this, step two, do that, and it was like
I
I think
gotcha.
some people can take to it more naturally.
I gotcha.
Sure.
Okay. So street epistemology, the clunkiness, and it sounds like maybe you were what's the right word?
Triggered.
Maybe frustrated or
Yeah.
bothered by it. Does that sound about right?
No, I was super triggered, Pierce. Like
Triggered.
I was
Okay.
really, I was really going through it, man. I was going through some real psychological turmoil about the sliminess of street
Gotcha.
epistemology, and I was in a bad way. Thank you for
What's
empathizing.
You're welcome. And what's if you don't mind sharing, you don't have to share if you don't want to. Is there anything that was underlying the triggeredness? Is there anything beneath that?
Yeah, I mean, I probably have to come back and talk about my childhood trauma, etc. Right?
Uh,
That's actually next week.
yeah,
Childhood trauma is
that's
next week, I think.
Oh, okay. All right, guys. Well, look,
all right.
I
I'll let you
appreciate
go
it.
then.
Thanks for playing, guys. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for playing along too.
All right, bye.
See ya. All right, just to reset the room again a little bit. So what we're doing is street epistemology, conversational technique, where you usually don't call people idiots. That's not usually on the smorgasbord, no. But not debating either.
Yeah.
I think the next person who had their hand up actually was that the person from last week? I don't
Was it
remember.
Camus?
The no,
Reverse
the
Camus? I believe we
reverse.
talked to him the other day. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we will. He was next in line, so
Yeah.
we'll bring him up. How's it going, man?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Feeling nice and stretched and loose now.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
I think I
Thanks
really
for waiting.
heard you in yoga poses or whatever.
It's fun. I mean, it's like to do something like this, to try to preface that we're trying to have conversations in this kind of way. I mean, I can understand there being a hesitation for people who can different impressions of it. So I get it. I'm not offended. And it's fun for me to explain because honestly, I'm an external processor. So most of the time I'm just thinking out loud.
Yeah.
Helps me thinking out stuff.
Yeah. My experiences with street epistemology, like I found little things like that, but for the most part, I've never felt like you guys were slimy. I felt like you just are approaching the conversation from a certain way. But when you get into a situation where, like, they're presenting a claim that you don't quite believe, like, you're caught in between a rock and a hard place between trying to be neutral and also having your own opinion that you can't quite say. So you're almost, the word that I used with Honest Ape was like pseudo interlocution.
That's a fun word. I like that. Pierce,
What's
are
it
you trying to
mean?
be neutral?
I don't really. Not really. Like I know a lot of people throw that out, being neutral for street epistemology when you're doing street epistemology. I don't think that's actually necessary. And I know people are going to be like, "What are you talking about? You have to be neutral." But hear me out. Hear me out. So I'm gonna, in any given topic, I'm gonna have an opinion. Okay, that's how humans are. I'm a human. I have opinions on things. But when it comes to actually doing the street epistemology, it's not exactly like I'm staying neutral. I'm just asking questions that are open and not leading. If that means being neutral, then yes. Hell yes, I'm being neutral. But I don't think that means being neutral.
Yeah,
Fair.
I agree. Like, I care about things. I care about people. I care about truth. I care about a lot of things. So I mean, it's not like I'm have no grounds. I mean, 2-Day David might, but I have opinions. The guy was born yesterday. The cardboard cutout I take for interviews. Sorry.
Who is that back there? I can't quite see in this small thumb.
Yeah, that's a cardboard cutout of a version of me that was born yesterday.
Oh,
It's the second day on Earth. 2-Day David.
all right.
Yeah, that's my whole shtick on my channel.
Fair enough.
So, Camu, what do you wish other people believed? Also,
I wish that people believed that there was more of like a middle ground between like religious or spiritual claims and scientific claims. And like religious people would keep their noses out of religious books all the time and like open up a science book, and science nerds would open up like a religious text.
So you want like some cross I don't know. You want the religious people to read about science, you want the science people to read about religion. You want everybody to learn each other's thing?
Yeah.
why is that important to you?
Yeah. That's pretty much it.
Why is that important to you?
Well, I feel like there's a lot of good information in science, like, or I guess not information, I should say. It's more of a methodology to find out how things are, and you can get a lot of information from that. But like, I feel on the science side, they often discount like claims in religious books. I mean, not unjustifiably, some of them just sound ridiculous. But on the other side, I have religious people who just think that the earth was 6,000 years old. I think that they could use more investigation on the other side.
What is the best way to do this investigating?
Like I said, reading comes to mind the most. With science, it's a lot easier to evaluate claims. You can like do it yourself, like unless like it's an experiment where you need highly specialized equipment. But I don't know, when it comes to religious stuff and like religious practices, it's a bit harder because you're almost coming from it's hard not to come from a paradigm of either trying to debunk it or prove it. Like you can try and look at it neutrally, but like I don't know, for like claims like chakras, like that's a bit more tough. Like the way that I understand that people say that you have to believe them, like you have to literally imagine a pool of swirling energy or in certain parts of your body, and like that's pretty much confirming it. But I don't know, just looking into history, like I was talking with someone earlier, he was skeptical about an article that I posted because it was from like a biblical archaeology site, but it was like about people who allegedly found Jesus's home, and they also found the alleged site of where Sodom and Gomorrah was. And like I felt like one of the major things with the conversation was that as an agnostic, like he's gonna almost put up walls to say that it's not quite true, or put up walls to make it seem less credible. But I acknowledge my biases a bit on that, and he read a bit of the articles, and he found that the guy that was doing the paper on Jesus's childhood home, like, he had legitimate, what's the word, expertise in the field of archaeology. He just happened to choose biblical archaeology as his.
Mr. Campus. So we got kind of three things going on here. We got like the science nerds reading. You think they should read like religious stuff or research it, get into it? And then you got the religious spiritual folks, and they should get into the science. So that's the second thing. And then the third thing was like you talked about this fellow you were talking to earlier, and he's like putting up a wall here. So that's like a third thing we could talk about. Let's choose one of these paths and have a nice calm walk down it, and you can choose whichever path you'd like.
All right. I guess the most interesting line of questioning would be science nerds reading religious texts.
Okay. Science nerds should read religious texts. Okay, cool. And you may have touched on it a little bit, but why should they do this?
Like, I go back and forth on the validity of a lot of these claims, but I believe if you legitimately have faith in these things, they will show themselves to be true. But like, it's not going to be like a thing where you just read one thing and all of a sudden you're like, I believe in God. Like, I think that like investigating this stuff, like seriously, like it will lead you closer to this source, this power outside of ourselves that can be beneficial.
Okay, I gotcha. So I got. Have you met Alan before?
Alan? Or wait, no.
I'll introduce you. It'll be real quick. So I got this buddy. His name's Alan. Real nice guy. He's actually not from Earth. He happens to be an alien, and yeah, real nice guy. We go bowling on the weekends. So
Nice.
if he were to, he's been known to pick up a science book now and then. It's not in English, but whatever. Anyways, so if he were to read a religious text, whichever one, and like, how would you said that he couldn't just pick it up and then start believing? And I think I'd agree with you on that. I think most people, if they just start picking it up and reading it, it won't just instantly come to them. What does this process look like? How does he go from picking up the text and reading it to knowing that it's true?
I guess just a special revelation that comes outside of him. Like, I don't know. I'm not just like talking about like just reading the Bible. Like, I'm talking about like reading the Upanishads, reading the Dhammapada. I guess there's not really any text for Zoroastrianism, but like searching through all these different religious texts or in esoteric spiritual sources to try and like either confirm or deny these claims.
Okay. Okay. I hear you. I'm not sure I understand how to get from that disbelief or who knows to the this is true. This is totally true. Like, you said it has to come from like something outside of him. Did I hear that correctly?
Yeah, it has to come outside of him, but he has to perceive it through his own senses.
Okay. Okay, gotcha. How would Alan know if it like was something coming from outside and he was perceiving it, or if it was something else, or and how does that real one question at a time. How does he know that it's like coming from outside of him?
Hmm. Like, I guess investigate what happened. Like, depends on what specifically, or what specific event made him want to confirm it. But,
Okay.
like, just stuff that you can't really explain. Like, shoot, I don't know. You read about archangels in the Bible, and then all of a sudden an archangel appears in front of him. Like, that would be an extreme version of the confirmation. I can't really think of a more down to earth example at the moment.
That's okay.
Did you
that
have
works.
Did you have a revelation like this? Sorry, Pierre.
Yeah.
If I derailed you there.
Yeah. Let's see. The one that comes to mind was that I have. You know what a mala is?
I'm not
I
familiar.
don't. No
All
idea.
right. It's they're basically mantra beads from India, and I do a mantra on them occasionally. And recently, there's been like a couple confirmations that I'd say. Like, I don't know if like it's this weird psychosomatic thing, but it seems like too convenient to just be something that my mind told my body to just do something that I wasn't even expecting it to do. But like, there are 108 beads on a mala, and you're supposed to say the mantra 108 times. And the moment like I got to 108, like I felt this explosion of energy all over my chest. Like the moment that I got there to 108, and there was another time where I got to 108, and I just felt this like electric shock on the very last bead that I didn't feel on any of the others. And all this happened on the last 108th bead. So, like, I don't know how you'd explain that scientifically.
Does this happen every time you get to 108? Has it happened since?
Not really. To be honest, I was stoned as fuck when I did it. Which I don't know. In my experience, like that opens you up to more stuff like that.
Could the drugs have had some sort of effect on that experience?
Yeah.
How would you know if it was the drugs or if it was a spiritual experience?
That's a very good question. Like, it's hard to know. Like, personally, I just came to the conclusion that it was something that just seemed way too convenient to just happen. Like, your brain can make you think some very weird stuff, but it just the very last bead when I'm completing the mantra, like it just seems way too convenient for it to be something, even if I was on drugs, because like
What do you think?
I don't know. I think there's like a halfway point where the drugs and the spiritual experience are connected. Like
There's
it.
your science and religion connection right there.
Mm-hmm.
Get a scientist to make the drugs and have spiritual experiences. You figured it out.
David, I like the question you were about to ask. What was it like? What does this experience mean? Yeah, what does this indicate?
That there is like this spiritual force out there that I'd go even further and say that there's at least this mechanistic force that controls it outside of it, if not a deity.
If you didn't have this experience, would you still hold that belief?
Absolutely not. I used to be an atheist,
Hmm.
and it took me the longest time. Like even before that, like before these events happened, like I'd say I was an agnostic theist because I was trying to back off these claims with my atheist friends because they're not going to believe me, and I can't justifiably say that these personal subjective experiences are going to hold water with someone who inherently doesn't believe these ideas. But the more like I had these experiences recently, the more I was able to personally confirm it. But it's still at the point where like I completely expect people who don't believe to be skeptical of it. And
Sure.
at that point, I'd say you just kind of have to investigate it yourself. And then you run up into the wall of like, should you be trying to do this with the intent of confirming it? Because when I was praying on my mala, like I was legitimately scared of stuff going on. And I felt like the only thing that I could do was cling to my faith, and that doing the mantra on my mala was going to keep me safe, or like keep me grounded, or like keep me calm. And at that point, I completely given in to this idea of faith, and that's not something that you can really replicate in a scientific experiment.
Yeah, so you had like this experience that you went through, and it sounds like it brought you some joy. Does that sound about right?
Peace.
I
Maybe
guess in a
peace.
way, it brought me more confirmation,
Mm-hmm.
knowledge of stuff that I wasn't sure about before. But like these spiritual experiences, these religious experiences, like those don't mean that your life is gonna be happy all the time. Like it
Of
could mean
course.
that things are gonna get even harder because things
Are,
are gonna push back against you even harder.
are you glad that you had this experience?
I don't know. My mind immediately says that I'm pretty neutral on it.
Hmm.
Just
Interesting.
like a piece of information that I learned, and I'm pretty neutral on learning information. And when I try and explain stuff, like I'm giving you the short version with try not to make super what's the word, incredible claims about it, so that you can at least find like something you can attach to. But like to like an atheist who inherently doesn't believe in these things, like it's gonna lead to more frustration. Like I tried talking with one guy about another experience, and pretty much every answer to everything that I said was, "Oh, it's just something within the body, your body reacting to this kind of stuff." There was nothing spiritual about it. It was completely explainable within a naturalistic paradigm. And I was trying to tell him, from my perspective, I don't see how, even how, with how mysteriously the brain works, like I don't see how my brain would make these physical things happen that I had no intent of happening.
How could we know whether he was correct or if You are correct. I'm not saying either one of you is correct. Just how could we know?
Yeah, I think this is where epistemology just completely breaks down. I don't think there is a way to know, like
Okay.
until we shuffle off the mortal coil, and like whatever happens after that. Like I think that would be the closest time when you could get it confirmed that there are these outside forces. But then
Okay.
you're reincarnated or whatever. Or I guess that's another incredible claim. But yeah, I believe when that happens, like you immediately forgot everything that you learned and got confirmed. So, um,
If we don't know, if we can't really figure out who's correct, whether you or this other fellow is correct, should both of you guys, and maybe me and maybe David, should we just kind of be like, well, we don't know which one is true, and kind of hold that position?
yeah, that's fine. I can't stop you from doing that.
What about yourself?
Well, I don't know. Maybe I'll have further revelation of that would confirm that these were just completely explainable within the naturalistic paradigm. But for me,
Mm-hmm.
like, there's no putting the genie back in the bottle for me. I used to be an atheist, and then I slowly got confirmation, and then I had those events happen that like confirmed stuff that I've read in uh, religious and spiritual books. So whether or not I'm correct, like I've convinced myself that this phenomena has an origin outside of me,
Is it
and
important? Is it important if you are correct?
uh, I don't really know. Um, like the most important thing that I could say with that is I can use this information to try and confirm it to others and try and make their lives better. But for a lot of cases, like a lot of atheists that I would talk to, they'd be like, "Oh, my life is fine just as it is. I don't need this spiritual force or this deity like controlling my life." And like introducing it to them, it could actually uh, cause them to lose track of reality because like if this is real and they don't believe it and I show that it's real, like one of the things that or one of the side effects of these spiritual experiences that I've heard is a type of psychosis. So it can be dangerous to the uninitiated to even learn about this, or I guess not learn, have it confirmed. So like I don't know if it would be a good or a bad thing, but I'd like to think that it's a good thing to know that you have this spiritual force or this deity on your side that you can use to make your life better. And it's a good thing to try and spread that. But like I said, messing with those forces, uh, from what I've read, can be dangerous. It can make you confused. It can make you disoriented.
Let me ask you that. Would you rather someone embrace these kind of spiritual practices and exercises, and maybe they have some experiences, but they don't believe that it's an outside power, but it still feels meaningful to them, or reserve um, all judgment just until they know for sure?
Hmm. Those are pretty similar options. I need to think about it.
I think that almost sounds like what you were describing at the beginning of scientists reading spiritual things and the spiritual reading scientific things. It's almost like maybe they don't have the same starting points, reference frames, but they can share different values of having experiences of meditation, of focus, of being present and aware, of being alert to their surroundings and what's going on in their life, those kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
It can still be meaningful even if they don't believe it's from an outside power, maybe.
Yeah, I suppose so. Right now, my mind's thinking that without like grounding it in that supernatural idea, it seems almost like it wouldn't matter to them as much if they didn't believe it.
If somebody proved to you beyond a shadow of doubt to your satisfaction that it was something completely natural, what happened to you, would it still be meaningful to you?
Not as meaningful, I guess, but yeah.
Yeah. Maybe I can help that thing that you're wishing more people believe. Maybe that's a middle ground people can meet on.
Mm-hmm.
Well, cool. Cameron, that's an interesting conversation, and I hope we get to chat again in the future. I'm going to try to queue up the next person here. Any questions before you roll?
Not that I can think of. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Thanks for sharing your experience and your thoughts, and come on back.
Yeah. Thank you.
Absolutely. Right. Have a good night.
You too. All right, we will bring up Jess.
Howdy, howdy. Can y'all hear me?
Hey, Jess.
Yeah, can hear you.
Okay,
Rabbit
perfect.
clown.
Awesome. All right, so what's it called? Gosh, my brain not working super well right now. Oh yeah, are y'all familiar with healthygamer.gg?
Yeah, the doc. I love listening to him talk to people.
Ooh.
Yeah, for sure. I guess like the conversation earlier with semantics reminded me a lot of it's of course like a different flavor, right?
Yeah.
But it reminded me a lot of his conversation with Sneeko.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was
yeah.
Yeah, it's just super funny because like with these kinds of conversations, there's like a mutual sort of contract of trust, right? And that was obviously not entirely there. It was pretty funny.
Oh yeah. I kind of enjoy it, honestly. Like
for sure.
That's what he feels is what he cares about. Well, it's what he cares enough to troll about it. So it's, to me, it's like a puzzle. It's like it's another aspect of human interaction that I just like to figure out.
Absolutely, yeah.
You're a better man than me.
Yeah, but I guess like what's it called? I wanted to talk about street epistemology in general, but I think just for the sake of time, I'm going to try and answer the question of what do you wish others believe also. So I guess what I would do with that is just say that like there's a specific flavor or combination, right, of kindness and assertiveness that just generally makes the world a better place. And generally any sort of malice, anger, and stuff like that is pretty, like unprocessed emotions generally are pretty misplaced. I guess this is like a pretty undeveloped thesis, just to say the least. But I just generally think that, what's it called? That being like a patient person and being kind to people and giving people the benefit of the doubt, unless they give you a reason not to, is generally a good thing. Yeah, but honestly, this is like I'm worried I'm like saying like a cliche or something. I have no idea what I'm saying, to be honest.
I get it.
It could be a cliche. I think I agree with you. But I think we can still, even though I agree with you, let's go down this path together. Let's
Yeah, Yeah, sure.
Let's figure it out.
Also, I don't know if I agree with you.
All right, we got 3 people. We got 2 that agree, 1 that is unsure. Okay. So Jess, we got this, like, being a patient person, being kind is generally good, I think you were saying. And
Yeah.
walk me down this path. How did you arrive at this conclusion?
Unfortunately, it's through a lot of anecdotal stuff. It's like very heavily anecdotal and theoretical versus like empirical. But I've sort of gotten to a position where I really hate Kant, like as a philosopher for a lot of different stuff. But a few things that I sometimes exercise is the idea that if everybody acted in a certain way, right, at least for certain stuff, right, like the whole world would be a better place. And so as consequence, that influences some of the actions I take, because I sort of think, if anybody takes inspiration from what I do, right, they're going to act better themselves, possibly, and transfer that onto somebody else. And I think like the same for negative stuff that I do, because of like, I see different stuff, like, for example, cycles of violence and trauma, and I see that actions have a ripple effect, right? And so I try to make whatever I put out there be, the best I can be to a certain extent. Like, there's definitely times where I lose my cool or I don't actively think about what I'm doing, but at least recently, especially, I've been trying to be deliberately patient and kind when I can, even when it's just like some random person.
Okay. So we have like this, people can draw like this inspiration and to do kind of mimic what you're doing or do these other good things. What's underlying these good things? Why is it important to do good things?
I mean, this is I guess this is getting into my sort of whole ethical framework, which is complex but very simple simultaneously. So I'm kind of a moral anti-realist, I think. I think that's what it means. I'm using the correct terminology, but basically for morals, I'm like, this is moral because I said so, and there's nothing else that I can basically say, right? There's nothing written in the stars that says that killing is good or killing is bad. And even the word killing, like what it means, is like dependent on culture to culture, person to person. This is just like me vaguely trying to describe my own value judgments, right, in my own head.
Okay, let's break it down a little further. So you have the example of killing. Okay.
Yeah.
And if you were to observe a killing or hear about it or something along those lines,
Yeah.
what would you feel?
I don't know. It really depends, because like most of the time when I see stuff like, when I see people die at the hands of another person, I see a lot of negative consequences and just people get angry, and it's like people use it as like excuses for martyrdom and stuff like that. But then there's one outlier that I've seen, which is the what me and my friends called the doohickey incident with Shinzo Abe. And what happened with that thing is, after Shinzo Abe was killed, there was a substantial shift by the Japanese government to reduce the power by the Moonies, which is a cult group. And they previously had a lot of negative consequences that I would argue, at least negative consequences on the system, right? But there have been arguments that I've seen that assassination led to positive consequences in terms of the disempowerment of the Moonies. But I don't really know whether that's like a consistent thing that people could do, where I'm like, oh, like if only we had doohickeys in the right place, so this would like solve all our problems. But I just generally think that like taking someone's life is a thing that should be avoided at all costs. And I never think, like, in terms of how I think of it, like the phrases that I say in my head, I don't think people deserve to die, right? I think if this person dropped dead right now, like, the world would be a lot better place. But I don't necessarily even want them to suffer. I don't want their family to suffer. I don't want all this different stuff to happen.
Gotcha. So I think what I'm hearing is like there's exceptions, like there's might be some utility to unaliving someone,
Yeah,
and
or war on
yeah.
occasion.
Okay, gotcha. Let's go to like the simplest example. Someone's walking down the street, just punches them in the face, and it's fatal. So, what's your emotion regarding that?
My emotion?
Hmm.
I would just feel kind of. I wouldn't say like even sad. I would say like, what's it called? It would just be like, I don't know, like the motivations of the guy are like not even clear, right?
Yeah, no context.
No context. Yeah, I'm just not a big fan of violence. I would probably be jarred because I would be seeing this, right? This would be live footage or me personally seeing it. So I'd be jarred by that. Seeing a dead body, seeing a person witness that and do that, that would be a really profound experience that I don't know if I would want to experience myself.
Gotcha. And what do you think is underlying this feeling? Why are you feeling the way you feel?
Um, I think I'm feeling the way I'm feeling. I guess like my structure of my responses to things, I think, are purely dictated by, as far as I know, right, the material world and the material conditions within my brain, right? A combination of the interplay between my body and my brain in terms of memories, which take the physical form of patterns in like the different tissues, right? The lightning that is the electricity between my different neurons, and this programming and genetics has come through. That's what I think causes it. But at the same time, that doesn't have a lot of explanatory power in terms of like a specific like why, right?
Yeah.
It only gives like a vague direction of where I think it comes from, but it doesn't have like a very good explanation of what's going on. And I think that's because as we investigate neurology and stuff more, we're gonna figure out what's going on, whether that's like in the brain or something deeper.
I wonder if there's, excuse me, voice is going weird. I wonder if there's something above that level, like, like maybe I can. You mind if I share what's alive in me right now? Is that okay, Jess?
Yeah, sure. That's
Okay.
really chill.
If I were to witness somebody being unalived, I think I'd have similar feelings to you. I think I'd probably be in shock, uh, depressed, maybe saddened, whatever. And I think the reason I would feel that is because I want fairness, right? I want fairness, and I want maybe justice, maybe like if the person got away, right? Um, is there something along those lines for an underlying reason to your feelings?
Oh, like fundamental values?
Yeah.
Um, Honestly, I'm in terms of stuff that I would point to, I would point to like specific values that would be a little bit different, but at the same time, what's it called? Yeah, I guess what I care about is well-being and like well-being. Yeah, I guess well-being is like the fundamental thing, right, that I care about.
Gotcha. Yeah.
But except that well-being is very vaguely defined, I just generally think it's like, how do I put it? Sort of not joy, right? Not happiness, but the specific kind of stability where people like have a reason to live and keep on living.
Almost like safety in a way, right?
It's a kind of safety, but it's
Yeah.
specifically a combination of physical outside stuff and also in the head, right? There's mental well-being and physical well-being, right? For example, you can have an enlightened monk that's being hit from all sides and he doesn't care, right? To a certain degree, which is an example of a certain type of mental well-being in a sense, right? But physical well-being, not so great. I mean, you could also argue that the mental well-being is like a person who has like mental well-being would fight back or something like that, but that's still like a subjective opinion. It's still really up in the air. It's kind of like utility. It's not very easy to measure.
Gotcha. Okay, I think we're on the same page here. I think we're pretty much identical. So I think the way I would word it is we have empathy for well-being, or we can kind of phrase it as like safety for physical safety of a person, or maybe mentally. And I think that's really for me anyways, and maybe it's for you, maybe it's not. You can tell me if it is, but that's really what's supporting the claim that being a patient person and kindness is a good thing.
Oh, absolutely. That's the reason why I care about those specific attributes being present among as many human beings as possible, is specifically because of the preservation of well-being for as many people as possible. And I guess like when we get into like niche utilitarian examples of like, well, what if the few suffer so the many can survive? And like the thing about that situation with like I remember there's a specific example of a story where they would like torture this baby, right? And that like ensured that everybody else would have a great life. But in reality, the way I see it is that people's lives are ultimately, how do I put this? Like they find out, right, eventually about this instability, this flaw in the system where people get hurt. And we have the impulse to help other people to resolve these conflicts in the system. And it creates inherent instability that leads to the downfall of society, right? At least that's what I think, right? This is like a heavy anecdotal theoretical thing. But in my opinion, I think we should get to a place where like everyone in society can be confident that they're not the next person to be like, arbitrarily taken in to serve this like terrible subset of society, right, in order to better everyone else. Like it's like the brutal like collective utilitarianism kind of society, right? Everyone's like, oh, like stuff is safe to a certain degree, but what if I'm the next person on the chopping block? And that stress goes through the whole population, and eventually that could lead to the change in the guard, right? And I don't think that like if people know about it, if people end up knowing about it, even if it's hidden, people can end up knowing. But that stress, right, that insecurity, that interferes with well-being. So I think it's important to create a society where people don't feel like they're next up on the chopping block, and that's not really a possibility unless they choose to be in like service of everybody else.
I volunteer as tribute.
So true.
I got a question for you. Imagine there's a trolley.
Mm-hmm.
And there's 2 tracks. No, you've heard this a million times. The trolley.
I mean, I have, but if you want me to answer it, I will.
I think you already did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that, in a sense, right, with that trolley problem, I would still support turning the lever, right?
Action over non-action?
Yeah, action over non-action, for sure. Because it's kind of like having, it's just like, either way, I mean, the way I think about it is actually at a visceral level to a certain degree, right? Like, either way, you're going to be traumatized. You're going to be seeing the bodies of people dying, right? There are going to be people, granted, who are going to be run over. And, like, I guess for me, personally, right, I know that I would feel less guilty if I pulled the lever.
Did you try to make a decision to do something, even if it turned out to add up wrong? Yeah.
I would feel guilty either way. I would like my whole life be like, I should have, could have, would have. If that would end up happening, it would happen either way. So rather try something. But hopefully I would be able to get into a headspace where I would be able to understand that regardless of whether I made a mistake, I should still move on with my life.
Have you always had these beliefs? What what kind of led you to start building a worldview like this?
I guess there's a lot of factors that came into play, I guess. At first, I was really not thinking things through at all. I used to think that the world was like completely justified and that suffering and punishment basically existed just because, in a sense. Not that they were like unjustified, but that they were justified in and of themselves, right? That suffering happened to bad people, and because good people did bad things or something, and that's why good people suffer. And all this different stuff happened. But now I started sort of evolving and thinking about, I care about the people in my life. I care about more than just the people in my life. Like, what do I want to do about it? And so over time, I got interested in different stuff around social movements, philosophy, and that's kind of where I am now as a consequence of all that. I can't gesture to specific events or different points in the evolution of my morality. Although I will say that at one point, I was like a purist in a specific way, or like a moral purist in a specific way. I don't know if that's the correct terminology, but I was like, if you take part in something bad, no matter whether that's a choice between two evils, that makes you a bad person, right? If you take action, right, in a situation where both things are bad, that makes you a bad person. You have to refuse. You have to not be part of that situation. And I guess that sort of changed over time because I thought about things like voting, right? I thought like both candidates were really terrible in a lot of ways because of the way the United States
I opened up a can of worms. Yes, there's so many things I want to hear from you.
Yeah.
Let's chat sometime. You can help 2-Day David build a world from scratch, and we can kind of figure out how we get from point A to point B on that. Because I mean, I like the idealism. I'd be curious to see if I had more time to ask you some more questions of what about this, what about that. But we're running out of time on the show, and I do want to get to our last caller here. And so thank you so much for coming up. And if you haven't watched the show The Good Place, I think you'd really like it if you haven't watched it.
Oh, yeah, I'll check it out. I've already seen part of it, but I think I need to see the second season. It's pretty hilarious.
It's worth it. It's actually
absolutely.
It ends well. Anyways.
Before I kick you off stage, just one last question. What did you think of the conversation?
I guess I thought of the conversation as yes, questions that you think of, which I liked, but I felt like it was generally I feel like there could have been, I don't know, I feel like there could have been a certain amount of pushback that I would have enjoyed more, but this is just because I hang out on this server way too much. So I'm used to a lot of adversity from other people. But yeah, I enjoyed this conversation. I'm glad I thought through what I was thinking about and the connections to different part of my morality. And yeah, I hope you all have a great day.
All right, you too. Thank you.
Thanks, Jess.
All right, bye.
All right.
All right, we got
him up here.
What's going on?
There.
Hello.
I want people. Should I just go in?
Yeah, jump right in. Jump right into the deep end.
I don't understand morality. I don't understand the hype around it. I think people should accept a system of preferences rather than morality. I don't believe in good and evil. I don't think they exist. I think all that exists is, what you have a greater liking for. And I think that would create a more harmonious, cohesive society.
Oh, interesting. For preferences, what props up preferences? What holds them up?
What holds them up?
Yeah, how do we form them? How do they get there?
Yeah, they're typically, emergent, natural inclinations.
Okay. Help me out here. Is it does that mean kind of like a feeling that someone gets and then they kind of get that preference based off that? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah,
Okay.
it emerges primarily from experiences, external experiences, sometimes internal. But yeah, it's experiences that you have with the world around you, with your surroundings, and then you inadvertently build a system of preference,
Okay.
and that system of preference changes all the time. Yeah, it's dynamic, and
Do
whereas you
people
have this, yeah.
do people build their morality based off these preferences?
Um, no, morality is just a social construct. Um, whereas a system of preference is something that is
Okay.
biologically innate.
Okay.
Like the brain, I don't believe the brain can comprehend a good or evil. I don't think that's real. These good and evil is just a social construct. It doesn't actually exist.
Okay.
That's what I personally think. Yeah.
Do you think there could be preferred preferences? And it's a redundant, but I think you get what I'm saying.
Yeah. It's a preference is just a greater liking for, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you obviously have, you'd obviously rank your system of preferences. You'd have, preferences that you have a much greater liking for than others. And then there are preferences that are non-existent within your system of preferences. So yeah, it's I think it's a much more better alternative.
And when two preferences collide and they disagree with each other, what in this worldview, I mean, what would you do to sort that out?
Debate and discussion. Whichever is more, whichever is able to, yield more people on their side to get more people to agree with them. That's probably the only way. It's discussion, debate, But I do believe I stress that we need to get away from good and evil because I think it's destructive to the human race.
Mm-hmm.
How do you define good and evil?
How do I define good and evil?
Yeah. What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, how would you define it?
Me personally, it would probably be something that was stance independent good versus stance independent bad. I think it depends on. I mean, it depends. Your statement was you think we should get away from it, and I'm just trying to know what you mean by get away. What are we getting away from?
Yeah. So good is like morally right, and evil is like morally wrong, right? That's like good and evil. I'm just saying like we should get away from like this idea of like things are morally good and things are morally bad. I think that things are just as they are, and they don't have this attribute, that some things are good and that some things are bad. No, it's just that things are just they are, and you have a greater liking for certain things, and there are things that you don't like, and there's things you like. That's really it.
At some point, hold on one second.
You okay, David?
Yeah, somebody's just putting junk in my chat.
Oh, I see that. Okay.
I got him. Sorry. Okay, but let's say that 100 people have the same preference. I mean,
Okay.
are we just doing semantics at this point? That I mean, that things that go with that preference or against that preference would be good versus not good?
No, it's not semantics. Because you are if somebody claims that something is good, they believe that it's morally good, right? And that we all should follow it, right? But I think that there is no good, right? It's just that you have a greater liking for something, right? And that's fine. You can have a liking for something, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't mean it's good and that we should all follow it. You know, that's where I'm like, oh, wait a minute, that's kind of weird. Because why else would you label something good, morally good, unless you want others to also follow it, right?
How would your life change if we did enact this mindset,
How would our lives change?
or your life?
How would my life change?
Mm-hmm.
No, this is how I view the world. I view as, you know, and it's I realize there's less conflict, there's less bickering, there's less animalistic tendencies. There's less factions, there's less I'm right, you're wrong, I should kill you for that. There's more like, oh well, okay, I can see why you're into that, or I can see why you like that, and there's more cohesiveness and harmoniousness than there is divisiveness. And I think that's one of the advantages of having a system of preference.
How have you come to this conclusion that there's, less conflict, less violence?
Well, just look at all the, previous religious conflicts. Religiously motivated, politically motivated. And it all goes back to what they believe is morally right and what's morally wrong. And I think that's dangerous. I think it's dangerous to have a transcendental moral authority, because my transcendental moral authority says this is wrong and you're doing the wrong, so I'm going to go kill you for that. And it's versus my system of preference, which is like, okay, you like this, but I don't like it, but you like it. I can see why you might like it. And, I choose to disagree with it. I don't like it. I can live my own life here, and you can live your life over there. And that's perfectly fine.
I think, generally speaking, I'm picking up what you're putting down, and I think I'm kind of agreeing with you. I would like to know, do you think that someone who has these beliefs of preferences as opposed to, absolute moral authority, can there be conflicts and wars and, bad things happening like that?
No, I don't think so.
Really?
I can't see a single conflict arising from a system of preference, to be honest.
Interesting.
Let's say you came across two people who they said that their house is right here. This is my house. Two people arguing saying this is my house. This is my spot. And one person's preference is they talk about it, and the other person's preference is you fight about it. What do you do in that situation?
What would I do in that situation? I don't believe that's a moral situation, though. I think that's just like a communication barrier. Like I'm not. I don't believe that's a moral dilemma. I think that's just people who have different ways of communicating.
Well, if the other person preferred not to get killed or beat up, I mean, that's violating their preference. How do you settle the difference between the two?
How How would you solve the difference between the two?
Yeah.
One prefers to fight it, one prefers to talk it. I mean, like, if somebody's gonna swing at you, you're gonna defend yourself. So it's like, it's just, it's just a natural response to it. Um, uh,
I might have a better example.
Yeah,
one
you
that's-
might.
Okay.
Go for it.
So let's
Go
say
for
there's this island, just off the coast of California. Nobody ever spotted it before. It's huge, and nobody ever saw it before. And Canada happened to see it flying over a plane, and it made news. But nobody went to it, and people in the U.S. saw it on the news, and they're like, "Whoa, that's cool. Let's go get it." And two people, one from Canada, one from the U.S. They go to this island and they get there at exactly the same time. And they both have, let's say we're 100 years in the future, and we both have this kind of opinion preferences based society, no morality, no moral authority. Could there be a war started over this island?
no, I don't believe so.
No, nobody would get mad. They'd just like talk it out, or what would happen? Paint a picture for me.
It's definitely difficult to predict, but I don't believe there would be conflict. Because everyone is responsible for their system of preference. They're not taking any external orders, right? Like from a god or whatever, or like some human moral authority. They're taking it from themselves. And so if somebody were to do something like let's say they went to the island or they did something, right? I would always just ask them, why? People would naturally ask them, why did you do this, right? And they would say, it's within my system of preference. And then other people would react to that, and they would go, if it's within their system of preference, others would react to that and go, I don't want that in my system of preference. And that would then further lessen the amount of conflicts, if that makes sense.
I'm gonna put my cards right on the table. I'm gonna tell you my position. That's almost like a sin of street epistemology, using metaphorically, of course. I think in this island scenario, I think that a potential outcome would be nuclear war and almost everyone's dead. I think that's like a possibility. I mean, that's the nuclear option. I mean, it could be just, a few people get killed or something. Or maybe they could work it out. They could talk it out, right? I think all of those are like possible options. In this scenario, how could we figure out like if this nuclear option, people fighting over it and going crazy, how could we know if that were to happen, or if there really wouldn't be a conflict?
How would we know for sure, for certain?
Yeah.
Look, there may be some conflicts at the start, right? But the thing is, this system, as it progresses, it will naturally lessen the amount of conflicts. Because people will react to these situations and they would say, you know what, I don't want this in the future. And so their system of preference will change. And then over time, you'll have like a more of a harmonious society as a result. So there may be some conflicts at the outset, but over time, it'll definitely get more harmonious.
Hmm. How could we know if people would if it would get more harmonious, or if people might still be
What?
greedy and still start conflicts?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas morality, what morality does is it causes people to remain stagnant. Right? Like for example, in Islam, like people believe that they should go out there and wage war and start killing people to this day after
Mhm.
1500 years. So it's like, would you rather have a stagnant system or would you rather have a system that's flexible? People can, obviously there will be conflict, but people are going to react to that and they're going to be like, well, I don't like that or I don't want that. So they're going to change.
I think I agree with you to an extent. I think not having these moral authorities probably leads to more peace. I'm wondering how we could know if it will lead to as much peace as, as you're suggesting.
Well, you can have a societal level system of preference where,
Sure.
you can have a communal, communal societal level system of preference where people come together and, like, a
Sure.
democracy.
Yeah, I'm on
Where
board.
they,
I got you.
where they all, say, what, this 80% prefers this, and then, they go along with that. And the likelihood of that 80% wanting war is very slim because they are aware of the consequences. So,
What if they're like 50-50? Is that a possibility?
a possibility of 50-50.
Sure.
I mean, obviously, mathematically, yes.
This
But
guy knows math. I love it.
realistically, no. I don't think it'll ever be 50-50.
Or split up moderately even, right? Like somewhere in the middle
Moderately
ground.
even.
Yeah, anywhere between
Something
40
like
and
what's happening in
60.
America today with the divide between like Democrats and Republicans.
Yeah, sure.
Um, nah. Not anything. Not anything major. Not anything that's foundational. Like
Really?
the foundational preferences.
So all these
Maybe on like
issues that like divide America politically, we got all these political issues, like every one of them would be solved, like
well, that's going into political science, right?
could be, yeah.
I think there'll still be I think there'll still be a place for democracy. I still think there'll be a place for some of these existing systems, but no, people will definitely disagree. And I think that's why it's important to have a democracy and things like that. So, and law and order. I believe in law and order. I believe in but I believe
Mhm.
that law and order should be built on a system of preference rather than, oh, God said so.
Yeah, I mean, I dig it.
Yeah, I've kind of matured on the idea is that but people who say that God gives morality, it's subjective morality. It's just God is a subject who has free will and choice in this paradigm, and then God chooses what's good and bad, and it's his preference, and he just has the biggest stick. Like he can hurt the most people, and or he can enforce his rules more than anybody. And really just the shift down from that, if God wasn't a factor, you would just have whoever has the biggest stick on earth. But at least you have a chance for democracy. At least you have a chance to advocate for what people want prefer for human experiences. We can try to have as much on there. So it's if to me it almost sounds like similar worldviews. Morality is essentially just in line with the preferences of the most powerful, and in that way, God's the most powerful. So whatever He says is morality. That's kind of how I interpret it. But we're a little bit past time here ad nauseum, and I really appreciate you sharing your stuff with us. Any
no worries.
questions you got for us, or could closing remarks that would be clippable and go viral?
Not really. I just came in here and winged it, but no, not really. But yeah, thanks for the time, man.
Absolutely, appreciate you coming up.
All right, see ya.
All right.
Absolutely.
See ya. All right. That was fun.
Yeah.
What'd you think,
Interesting
David?
discussions. I like talking about things. Like it can be stiff trying to just do straight street epistemology. It can be jolting in a lot of ways if people aren't playing along, so to speak. If people aren't like understanding that that's the goal. I mean, building trust is hard. Trust on the internet's even harder. Trust on Discord's probably the hardest. And so, like, I get a lot of the kind of objections to the or questions about the forum or whatever. And honestly, we didn't do a lot of street epistemology tonight. We kind of veered from a lot of it in a lot of ways. Like we kind of just had discussions about discussions and answered a lot of questions for people. And I'm okay with that. I see somebody in the audience raising up. We're going to have
we're done.
Cut it out for now. Come out for next week, though. We'll probably be on PNR or something.
Yeah, PNR, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we it was rough tonight a little bit. Like, I don't know. I struggle when someone says like, "Hey, this is your goal," or "This is what you're doing," and I say, "Well, actually, it's this," and he touched on it. He's like, "Well, you could be lying," and that could be the case. There's a lot of liars out in this world, so I could be lying. I could be one of them, but I find it frustrating, just because like I want to have these conversations. I think these conversations are so damn important. Like, it's so important to me. And it's just like, I really wish people could understand that importance to me. And, if anybody who's watching has a takeaway tonight, it's that it's important to me. That's it. That's all I got.
Yeah.
And I put a link in the chat. I'll put it in again just for good measure. We'll be over there, over at the CE Discord, just chatting. You can give us some feedback.
Reviewing the show,
whatever.
Thinking about things. Yeah.
So it's in the YouTube chat, so YouTube folks can check it out over there. I got nothing else for you. That's Pierce out, David.
See ya.
All right. Oh no, I want to do the outro. I almost forgot. Hold on.
Click it.
I forgot where is it? There it is.